13 News at 5 starts right now.
We just hollering and screaming, trying to wake our kids up. Tell them to fire, they sleep, don't know which way to go.
Flames tear through this apartment complex, killing a woman and displacing families. I'm Sandra Parker. Tonight, the desperate rescue attempt, and hear from the victim's family.
A dangerous bacteria is found in packaged fruit. I'm Regina Mobley. Coming up, a local company takes action to keep the tainted fruit off your table.
Plus, she was a medical miracle, treated with a cutting-edge surgery while still in the womb.
A miracle baby. Miracle baby.
Ahead, how she's doing now as an 8-year-old and the special surprise she received today.
It is Thursday night in the big story on 13 News. Another deadly fire in Hampton Roads. Good evening, everyone.
It's a second fatal fire in a week and in the same city as the last one. 65-year-old Anna Jones died as a result of the fire at the Pine Courts Apartments on Dresden Drive in Newport News. 3 other people had to be rescued from the smoke and flames. Now a family is in mourning and investigators are on the search for a cause. 13 News Peninsula Bureau Chief Velma Scaife is live in Newport News with the latest on this tragedy for us. Velma?
Well, Sandra, the Red Cross is assisting 47 people displaced by the overnight fire, and many of them are dealing with 2 losses: their home and the loss of a neighbor, a person who was a friend and like a family member. Residents of Pine Court Apartments say getting away from the smoke and flames was like waking up from a bad dream.
We just hollering and screaming, trying to wake our kids up. Tell them to fire, they sleep, don't know which way to go. Everybody cried and screaming, just kids and babies everywhere hollering and screaming.
We heard a pop, then all the lights went out.
All but one resident will be able to pick up the pieces and start over. 65-year-old Anna Jones was pronounced dead at a local hospital after being rescued from her second-floor apartment. Neighbors say she was like a mother to everyone she met.
Just was so sweet. She did anything. She had this her transportation right here, the van. She could take you where you had to go, and she didn't ask you for anything enough. If you didn't have, she would give it to you.
Jones's daughter says several family members tried to get her out before firefighters arrived, but couldn't.
They couldn't get her out because of her weight, and she had passed out, and it was real hard for them to get her out.
A fire department spokesman says with flames in the stairwell, they had to take the victim through a second-floor window. And with her being unconscious, it took 8 or 9 firefighters and 2 ladders to do it.
I think they did. I honestly think they did everything that they could.
A family member says that the fire started in Anna Jones's apartment. Reporting live from Newport News, Velma Scaife, 13 News.
This is the second deadly fire in Newport News in a week's time. 2 people died in a fire at the Admiral Point Apartments on River Road. Investigators say that fire started accidentally, most likely from a smoldering cigarette. The apartment did have smoke detectors, but we're told the heat from that fire tripped a circuit that controlled the alarms.
Also tonight, the 13 News Weather Lab is watching a change in our temperatures. Here's a look live outside from Sky 13. Beautiful sunset. The skies are clearing up from earlier today, but what you can't see is a drop in the temperatures. 13 News Chief Meteorologist Jeff Lawson joins us now. Jeff, the question, how low will it go?
Depends on which night you're talking. It will go low tonight, but it will go even lower tomorrow night and maybe even lower than that the night after that. We're looking at progressively colder nights, even though the days will be pretty similar. Let's just give you an example. We were well up into the 60s earlier. We still have 70 down across North Carolina, but you can see we've already dropped to 55 degrees, and look at the kind of air that's north and west of us. Temperatures in the 40s right now. And remember, this is, not too far from the daytime highs out in some of these places, and it's in the 30s. And with our wind coming in out of the north and the northwest the next few days, these are the types of readings we will certainly be seeing at night, even though daytime high temperatures are going to be a little bit closer to the 50-degree mark. Let me show you where the warnings are right now for a freeze tonight. They're down across areas south of Danville and down around Greensboro in North Carolina. So nobody locally is expecting a freeze tonight, but we will be talking about some 30s, just not cold enough to freeze things. That probably will be the case, though, by tomorrow night. So we'll be talking about even colder temperatures tomorrow afternoon. So we'll be discussing that in detail over the next few days, but prepare for 30s tonight and worse temperatures after that. That's the latest from the 13 News Weather Lab.
Well, back to the news now, and a developing story in Norfolk. Tonight, a longtime civilian worker with the Norfolk Police Department is under arrest, charged with embezzlement. Linwood Munson was charged late last week. Police say the 19-year police force worker was stealing confiscated items from the evidence collection room. 13 News reporter Lindsay Roberts is looking into that arrest for us tonight. Lindsay, what'd you find out?
Well, Sandra, police officers constantly deal with evidence, so it's not a big surprise that many people within the department know Linwood Munson. However, it was a big surprise when he was arrested and charged with allegedly stealing more than $2,400 in cash. According to this Norfolk Police Department incident report obtained by 13 News, on the morning of June 12th, more than $2,400 went missing from the police department evidence room. Late last week, 43-year-old Linwood Munson Jr., a civilian employee of the department, was charged with 5 counts of embezzlement, 4 of those felonies. Police say Munson, who had been with the department nearly 20 years, was an operations officer. As part of his job, he oversaw evidence, everything from drugs and personal property to cash. According to the incident report, investigators say Munson stole 5 envelopes of cash, ranging from $144 to over $1,100. The total amount missing, $2,428.80. According to sources within the police department, Munson was well liked. He worked the front desk at police operations for years before being promoted to operations officer, dealing with property and evidence. In fact, we're told Munson had just been promoted again before charges were filed. News of this arrest has shocked those who worked with Munson. He resigned from his job after being arrested. Thursday, we stopped by Munson's Virginia Beach home. He did not answer the door or our repeated calls for comment. Munson is now out of jail on bond. We're told he'll be back in court sometime next week. Tonight, police won't say whether or not they're looking into the possibility that more money is missing. For now, we're live in Norfolk. Lindsay Roberts, 13 News.
Now to the latest information in the fruit recall by Norfolk's Crisp Pack Company tonight. All of the packaged fruit the company recalled is history. Yesterday, Crisp Pack voluntarily recalled packages of fruit sold at farm fresh stores and military commissaries. One of the packages tested positive for a potentially fatal strain of listeria. 13 News investigator Wayne Carter is standing by in the newsroom with more on how the company got in front of this problem. Wayne.
Well, Regina, they called in the FDA on their own, did all they could to stop this bacteria before someone got very sick. Every afternoon, pounds and pounds of fresh fruit roll out of Norfolk distributor Crisp Pack. But today, that fruit didn't make its way into trucks. That's right, it all went in the trash.
All the fruit that we asked for the recall on Tuesday afternoon has been brought back to our facilities, and we're making means to dispose of it now.
125 pounds sprayed with chemicals to break it down. It's all ripped out of the packs to make sure no one goes dumpster diving and eats the fruit anyway.
By the time this goes to the landfill, I don't think there's going to be much left.
Under the watchful eye of the FDA, Crisp Pack voluntarily threw away the fruit, money, and manpower hours. The move after one single pack of fruit tested positive for listeria, a bacteria that can kill children and the elderly.
Everything that you think is safe to eat has been found out to have some type of contaminants or something in it, so you're a little bit reluctant to buy any type of fresh fruit or fresh vegetable.
Deborah Scoggins got a full basket at the grocery store this morning, but laid off the fresh veggies. So did Sylvan Goldstein.
I just don't buy it while it's in the news, and perhaps after they've found the cause of whatever is causing the fruit to become contaminated, and then I'll go back to it.
Today, the FDA met with Crisp Pack. They tested the whole plant, trying to make sure nothing else is laced with the bacteria. It's good news to shoppers.
They have an excellent product, and they're well known in this area, so I'm glad they got it straight before Thanksgiving.
Look at her already planning that big meal, and she wants to make sure that fruits and veggies are a part of it. Live in the newsroom, Wayne Carter, 13 News.
Well, state health officials are confirming one case of salmonella from the outbreak 13 News first reported on Tuesday. Health Department says that person was an adult from Northern Virginia who has since recovered. The outbreak sickened at least 171 people in 19 states last month. CDC has been unable to pinpoint the source of that salmonella, but suspects produce may be to blame. It's believed the outbreak may be over. We have a 13 News update on yesterday's breaking news at 5, a huge fire at a North Carolina school. Student body of the more than 1,000 students are without a building for the remainder of the year. That fire, which started in the chemistry lab of the Eastern Gulffield High School, destroyed that building. Officials say the school did not have a sprinkler system and didn't have to because it was built before sprinkler laws. The official cause of the fire has not been released. Now, the school is holding an emergency meeting tomorrow to decide how to handle students for the rest of the school year.
And late word from Southern California on an arrest in last week's deadly wildfire. Authorities charged a 36-year-old man with murder. His name is Raymond Euler. He had been arrested earlier this week for 2 wildfires in June. Now police have added the new charges. The fire killed 5 firefighters, and because of that, Euler could face the death penalty. 62 square miles of land was charred in the fire.
Hundreds of families will be celebrating a happy homecoming in the war on terrorism next week. Just about 300 sailors are sailing back towards Hampton Roads aboard the USS Ross. Crew will return to Naval Station Norfolk on Monday. The Ross has been on a 6-month deployment with the NATO in Mediterranean Sea. Now the Ross worked with 60 other ships from Israel and Russia.
Operation Falcon 3.
Show your hands. Show me your hands, sir.
A nationwide sting yanks more than 1,000 criminals off the streets. Coming up, the influence behind this operation. Find out how many people were netted in Hampton Roads, plus what else was uncovered in the manhunt.
The campaign trail heats up as election time draws near. Tonight, the Democrats' rising star that's backing Jim Webb.
Major cold front has moved through. Temperatures will be dropping dramatically. I'm talking about a potential frost or freeze in a few areas. Letting you know who stands the best chance of seeing that. That's next on 13 News at 5.
From 13 News, the spirit of Hampton Roads. This is 13 News at 5. Live with Regina Mobley and Sandra Parker. From the 13 News Weather Lab, Chief Meteorologist Jeff Lawson, Medical Editor Catherine Barrett.
We're back with the 2006 vote and a rising star stumping for one of the candidates for Senate. Illinois Senator Barack Obama is in the capital city today. He is campaigning for Democrat Jim Webb.
Obama has been questioned by a lot of people inside and outside politics, including Oprah Winfrey just last week. Now Webb is hoping some of Obama's star power will rub off in time for the election. 13 News reporter Mike Gooding is live in Richmond, where both Webb and George Allen are campaigning tonight. Mike.
Well, that's right, Regina and Sandra. Of course, it was very exciting to see Barack Obama. A lot of energy today at this rally for Jim Webb in Richmond, as really both Senate candidates spent this day campaigning in Virginia's historic capital city and discussing the history of this race, with both of them complaining that it has been too negative. Now, as far as which candidate has been more negative, of course, it's all in the eye of the beholder.
How you doing?
Illinois Senator and possible presidential candidate Barack Obama told hundreds of people at Virginia Union University in Richmond that Jim Webb is the candidate with a message of hope.
Somebody who has the kind of bearing and the kind of principles and has been working like a dog to make sure that he can put his shoulder behind the wheel and help bend this country in the direction of justice.
Webb talked about reorienting national defense and foreign policy and standing up to President Bush. And he lashed out at Republican incumbent Senator George Allen for running what Webb called a campaign designed to assassinate people's character.
The whole notion of Karl Rove political campaign is to distract people from the issues, go after emotional issues, get wedge issues such as the marriage amendment on the ballot, and assassinate people's character. That's what they do.
But Allen, after meeting with workers at Richmond's Philip Morris plant, said it is he who's been subjected to negative attacks.
The National Liberal Democrats had no love for me because I was chairman of the Republican Senatorial Committee in the last election cycle, and we picked up 4 seats, knocked off the chief obstructionist, Tom Daschle, so I knew they'd be gunning for me. But this has been, I think, the most negative, smearing campaign that Virginians have ever seen.
In the same breath, though, I might point out that Senator Allen likened Jim Webb to John Kerry and to Senator Ted Kennedy and to Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, and I don't think he meant it as a compliment. The good news for voters, one supposes, in all this is that this will all be over in just 5 more days. Reporting live in Richmond, Mike Gooding, 13 News.
And we want to remind you about your only chance to see 2nd District candidates Thelma Drake and Phil Kellum debate on television. It's this weekend. They'll debate the issues on this week's edition of On the Record with Joel Rubin. This exclusive hour-long debate starts at 10:30 Sunday morning.
Well, this evening traffic is a little bit slow around the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. I want to show you the traffic headed from the south side to the peninsula. You'll find just around Ocean View, 4th View, and 13th View traffic is a little bit slow. Also, the Midtown Tunnel westbound has been stopped because of a disabled vehicle, and 2 accidents working in Norfolk, 264 east and westbound just around Brambleton. That's the latest for now. Live from Sky 13, Benita Adams, 13 News.
Well, hurricane season is just about over, and some forecasters close by say that they got the forecast right. A team of University of North Carolina researchers predicted that 4 or 5 hurricanes would form in the Atlantic, and so far, 5 have. National Hurricane Center predicted 13 to 16 named Atlantic storms would form during hurricane season. There were 9 named storms. Top researchers at Colorado State University forecasted 17. Hurricane season ends on November 30th.
Now, your 13 News Weather Lab forecast. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jeff Lawson.
Major changes, in fact, when we look at the almanac page for today, whether it's today or a few years from now, it's going to be a high temperature that occurred in the middle of the night. And then we started getting back up into the 60s this morning, but not as warm as it was overnight, and then right back in the other direction. So a big chill coming in. I'm not talking about the movie. Looks like temperatures have dropped back considerably already. You can see clear skies across the region. Let's look at the forecast then for tonight. Not everywhere do we have clear skies yet, though, in terms of the cloud cover. We do on the radar, but not yet in the cloud cover. The northern half of the viewing area is clear. The southern half still has some clouds. So decreasing clouds across the region. That areas that haven't seen that will certainly over the next few hours. The big news, blustery and colder conditions, readings down into the lower 40s. But once you get inland, closer to 40 and then well inland, we're talking mid to upper 30s. Not quite cold enough for a freeze, though, just yet. That, again, may happen tomorrow night. So the rest of the forecast shows some showers around in the middle of the night and through the early morning hours in central Virginia. But as we had talked about yesterday, a lot of those broke up as they headed northeast. So most spots saw nothing at all. In the few areas that did, it was just a very brief patch of drizzle or a couple of light sprinkles. The big news, once again, is the front and the fact that it is through and temperatures are dropping. Another look at the 60s and 70s being shoved down to the south, while the 30s and 40s are starting to infiltrate a little closer to us. Now, remember what happens. We talk about the instability clouds. We've seen that a few times already this fall, where when you get really super cold air aloft and it's chilly at the ground, but not nearly as cold. I mentioned it's like oil and water and they don't mix. So I think what's going to happen tomorrow, it's going to be cold enough aloft especially, that we're going to get some instability clouds, probably even more than this is showing, at least at times across parts of the area, and maybe even a very brief sprinkle as the instability clouds form and then try to dissipate during the overnight period. And then during the day, Saturday should be very similar. A lot of sunshine in the morning, crystal clear conditions, in fact. And then as we get into afternoon, I think we'll start to see a few of those clouds pop up. I mentioned some big changes. Well, right now, we're already 10 degrees colder than we were yesterday. Manio's down 15, Farmville 17. So there has been a big drop locally with that wind shifting to the north at 13 miles per hour. Steady barometer. Later tonight, as we mentioned, some very chilly readings right now. Everybody pretty much in the 50s with the exception of a Hosky. You're at 61 degrees, which is what we made it up to unofficially so far on the south side. But again, we know it was 66 on the peninsula. It was 64, 65 at Oceana, even in Virginia Beach. So once you got even a few miles inland, it was much warmer than 61. But now we've gone back downhill. Decreasing clouds and more blustery weather expected overnight. Low 40s with even colder readings inland. Tomorrow, sunshine in the morning, then some clouds. Readings in the lower 50s at most. It may even be closer to 50. And then finally by Sunday, we're back up to 56, and Monday in the 60s again at 61. But it's not until next Tuesday, Wednesday, at which point, by the way, we could see a couple of showers, that we finally get back to normal. But we're just paying for those 70s that we saw over the last few days.
Always got to pay for it.
Yep.
The balancing act continues.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Still ahead on 13 News, more troubles for public opinion of the war. Coming up in a live report, find out why the president's campaign travels appear to be shorter than before because of that.
But first, a little medical miracle gets a big surprise today. Catherine Barrett has an update on a little girl who has overcome a lot in her life.
This weather segment is brought to you by Dodge.
In tonight's 13 News Medical Report, a Suffolk child in the medical limelight since before she was born.
Yeah, years ago, we first told you about her groundbreaking operation while she was still in the womb. 13 News medical editor Catherine Barrett joins us now with the surprise that she received today, Catherine.
And it's a good surprise. 8-year-old Helen Rose Adams has dealt with so many challenges, including life and death surgery in utero. Today, she heard the words any kid wants to hear, something about Disney. Well, before we get to that surprise, here's how I introduced Helen Rose in February 1999.
You know what? You're beautiful.
Eva and Steve Adams would have loved Helen Rose no matter what she looked like. She just happened to be beautiful, too. Now, touching her foot touches the heart because the feet that weren't supposed to move do.
A miracle baby. Miracle baby.
A miracle because Helen Rose Adams had experimental in-the-womb surgery when her mother was 28 weeks pregnant. Doctors had discovered spina bifida, an opening in the baby's spinal cord that can cause physical and mental disabilities. Surgeons believed closing the opening before birth would give the fetus a better chance at life. Helen Rose was the first Virginian and among the first in the country to have the then experimental operation. Now in first grade, Helen Rose's health is far better than many experts had predicted back in '98, but she's been through a lot, 13 operations altogether.
You're going to Disney World because you're our Disney kid for today.
All right. 97.3 The Eagle Radio chooses Helen Rose to be one of 10 kids and their parents to visit Disney World in Florida with Eagle's Jimmy Ray.
The kids we send, they've got adult problems. You know, they're worrying about adult stuff, and this is all about just releasing them and letting them be a kid for 5 days at Disney World.
They'll be treated like stars and interviewed live on the radio with Jimmy Ray and celebrate in a place where dreams do come true.
I was so surprised that my eyes were gonna pop.
Isn't that the cutest? Helen Rose had no idea she was about to be surprised with her selection as a Disney kid. Helen's dad tells us about 200 babies have had the fetal surgery Helen had at the time she was the 16th. Catherine Barrett, 13 News.
Wonderful story.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more coming up for you on 13 News.
David Allen joins us with some of the stories that we're working on for you.
New from the newsroom at 5:30. It's been weeks since the murder of a security guard at Virginia Wesleyan. Tonight, frustrated students and school officials talk to 13 News why they are getting so little information on the case. Also, are there really plenty of fish in the sea? Why researchers say the ocean could be near empty in 50 years.
Real-time closed captioning of 13 News at 5, 5:30, and 6 is sponsored by Dodge. Grab life by the horns. Dodge.
Our look at news across America begins with a disturbing discovery in South Carolina.
Police in Columbia, South Carolina find the bodies of 3 adults inside a drainage pipe. The pipe was near a public housing community. The woman and 2 other adults appear to have been killed during the night, but police say it isn't clear how or where they died. There are no suspects in this murder mystery, and the ages and identities of the victims have not been released.
And in Arizona, police have arrested a suspect in the shooting of 2 people in a business parking lot. Shootings happened this morning outside Pitney Bowes facility in Phoenix. Now, the suspect is a former contract security guard for that company who was recently fired. Both victims are in the hospital tonight. A total of 150 people work at that facility. Up next, a case of murder is getting cold on the campus of Virginia Wesleyan College.
David Allen and the 13 News team are standing by with that story and more right now on 13 News at 5:30.
And new at 5:30, Beach police are having a hard time cracking the case of a security guard found murdered at Virginia Wesleyan College last month. They have yet to make an arrest, and that has students